with a new topic of discussion. Is everyone here? Okay. All right. I'll wait until, I think there's a little bit of a delay because obviously the title of the video is a little piloted. Let me undo my thingamajiggy because then I'll do. I already think it's being blocked. So I'm kind of going to start the discussion, even though I see only one person in here. Hey there. Okay. Everyone in here, can you hear me okay? If you can hear me, just put a 13. If you can hear me. Can you hear me? Perfect. Okay, you guys can hear me. Peace to the east, west, north, and south. This is for everyone coming to you today with a new topic of discussion. We got a Smith trying to park next to me. I tell you, it never fails. As soon as we're talking about holographic people, they have someone parked right behind me. Probably a holographic Smith. Why would you have to park? This is crazy. There's 50 million parking spots and they just want to park next to me. Hold on. There's a holographic being here. It's like it never fails. Anyway, so we're going to get into discussion of the holographic loopers, the agent grays, and the propaganda of mass destruction. Right now, many of you are experiencing high levels of surveillance, infiltration, and distraction. Many of the Smithitarians have set out their agent Smith. Oh, look at this. Look at this. They sent, look, they send out everybody. Listen, we're in a video game, y'all. I've been sitting here quietly, just chilling, just finding a quiet spot. I'm in the middle of not many places, and everyone and their mother wants to park next to me and walk next to me. Okay, this is the high level surveillance with the holographic system. They have tagged many of us who are in this community, and they have made it a point to, cause constant distractions via the holographic system. And because of that, many of you are on the red list, or rather, yeah, the red list. Not the good red list, the bad red list. Okay, so the red list is where they have put in an alert on us. So when we go around in the holographic system, remember, it's an interactive video game. They place people, places, and things in your way, or things to distract you. So let's start talking about a couple of the things. Many of you have heard me over the years talk about empty seaters. You know, it's a term I coined maybe, I don't know, how long I've been on YouTube? Since 2011. So maybe 2013, 14, I coined the term empty seaters. These are beings that are walking around that haven't any soul or spirit inside of them. You have any spirit? They haven't any spirit inside of them. They're walking around hollowed out bioborgs, walking around just interfacing with everyone, and they aren't encased with anything organic. Okay. What would be the purpose of having bioborgs walk around as a constant, distraction, to place them in strategic positions in order to cause you, perpetual challenges, maybe to engage with you sexually, to keep your attention so that you aren't, trying to advert the Gray's agenda. There's several reasons why you would be assigned a bioborg, or bioborgs just walking around as like props in the system. There aren't that many people here in this world. I'm letting you know. I know people think I'm mad. Let me explain something, y'all. Let me put this PSA out there. Flurburn does 0 drugs. I am sober. Okay. I am sober. I don't drink, Occasionally, I may have a drink once every 2 to 3 months. I don't think that considers to be drinking. So I am sober. I don't do any mushrooms. I'm not high right now. I do drink coffee. It is one of my problems. There's so much I can do in this matrix to try to keep sane. Okay, so in this insane world. So just that being said, because a lot of people will be like, "Oh my God, she's mentally ill." I'm mentally ill. If you are sane right now, even to the slightest degree, you've overcome a lot of the nonsense, this madness. Okay, it's hard to be sane in a world that's with insane psychopath, sociopathic, and entities that are holographic and grays. Okay, I'm just putting that out there because a lot of people think that I'm over here getting high coming on YouTube. I'm sober. I'm probably the most sober person on YouTube. Some people come on here and have to drink wine just to be sane. And I don't blame them because it's madness out here. Anyway, so let's get into the holographic. So the bioborgs that are walking around, there's like empty seaters. They walk around, they're kind of like props. They walk around engaging with you. Sometimes they interface with you, sometimes they don't. They just fill the space. They fill the endless space of the holographic system, okay? Making it seem like we're in a world that's real. It's artificial, just like many of the beings walking around here, okay? So they're props. Then you have the loopers. The loopers are those beings that basically are walking around in the perpetual loop. When they began to loop, I can't say. Each looper is different. There are loops that began maybe remember we talked about the loop of 1986 where it began, where people were caught up in that major loop, and it goes until 2012, and then it goes back. So how many years is that? 1986 to 2012. Hold on. Let me do the math. 86 86, 96, 86, 96, 2006. Okay. 35 years. Thank you, my love. Thank you. Took me a moment. We're in that loop. So that loop lasts and then it goes back into the 80s again. So what you'll see is when we're starting again in the 80s, if you start hearing the 80s music again, it means we're back at the beginning of the loop. Okay? The loopers aren't aware of anything. They think that this is real. The loopers think that this is all real. They think that the world is as it's, being presented. They're caught in the loop. They don't have any original thought. They don't realize it, but they're only caught in the loop. So they can only create what's in that loop, the time frame in the loop. They aren't able to bring anything outside of the loop because they're caught in the loop. So perpetually, they're just perpetuating whatever they're in. Whenever they got caught in the loop, that's what they can perpetuate. They're very archonic in that they can pull or mimic other people's original thoughts or creativity. So that's where you get certain beings that are always copy and pasters. They're always taking other people's ideologies. They're always stealing other people's original art, other people's creativity. They're always mimicking others and then taking it on as their own. They're hijackers of other people's uniqueness and other people's unique unique thought forms that are outside of the loop. Okay, so loopers are here. There's a lot of loopers. I don't think there are more loopers than holographic people. I think there is a bunch of loopers that are walking around just perpetuating the loop. And you got to be careful because some of you are married to loopers. Yeah, like hairstyles. I had a problem. I was wearing a banana clip. Big up to all our people from the 80s and 90s. I've been wearing a banana clip for like how many years now? Because we're caught in a loop, you got to be careful being in the loop. So we were discussing this last night. Hold on. This is the only drug that I do take, and I'm trying to fight it. Let me take a sip for the haters, okay? At this point, I'm not giving it up. I'm just going to switch it up every once in a while, okay? Sorry. So anyway, so the loop is perpetual. It is, some people are caught in a shorter loop. Some people are caught in a wider loop. I can't say, I can't really kind of vet that out yet. I just don't have the time or the incentive to do that. Okay. So that being said, the loopers are here. Now you have the holographic grays. Everybody knows about the holographic grays. You all know about the holographic grays. They're on your phone, your cell phones. They're inside the electronics. Okay, that's why they changed everything. That's why they changed the electronics. What was it in 2000? My daughter was born. So 2000, remember when they changed everybody's boxes in the house? Does anyone know when the boxes were changed? When were the boxes changed? 2007 or 2008? Remember when they took everybody's boxes and changed them? Does anybody remember that? Let's see if some of you remember that. Oh, I can't remember. 2008 maybe? 2009? Is it 2009? Okay. No, it wasn't 12. It wasn't 12. 2009, 2010. Okay, it's roughly in that area, right? 2008, 9, and 10. Because I remember it was about that time. Because I remember I just had my daughter and she was a baby. So I remember them wanting to change our boxes and saying none of our televisions would work if we didn't have the new boxes. That's because they were implementing the new technology that had the insert of the grays. The iPhone. The iPhone is basically a phone that listens. Listen, I am using one right now and I'm disgusted with myself. I do put a lot of things on it and I shouldn't have ever engaged with the iPhone. I don't know if the Android or anything is better. I like the Android better, but there are grays inside of the iPhone. That's why we can't open it. Remember, we can't turn it off. Even when you turn it off, it's on. It's an iPhone. It listens to it's like AI. It listens to everything. It interfaces with you. And for those who have a lot of nanotechnology on you, or in you, you know that it interfaces with your neural synapses, your neurons, because it is now hijacking your neurons and you're interfacing with your technology via the grays or the AI, because your neural synapses are now using a form of kinetic telepathy with the nanos, interfacing with the phones. That's why you'll think about something and it'll just show up on your phone. Okay. Unfortunately, you got to get rid of as much metals as possible. Let me give a shout out to everybody who joined. Let me first say thank you for everyone who's been very supportive. I could not do the Zoom with the nano detox, but I did share the fact that I did a couple videos on my Patreon with the nano cleanse. So I want to thank everybody who joined Patreon, because I couldn't do it. I'm really appreciative. I just couldn't do it because, as you know, I was going to my bug out location and I did not have the time to do it. Time now is, time doesn't exist. It's an artificial construct that was created to bound us to this physical realm, but we are here. And sometimes we have to go by the timing of the Gregorian calendar or, the clock that they use. Okay. Be careful about messing with their clock too, because the clock gets you stuck in that loop. It's a perpetual spiral. Okay. So that being said, your phone has grays in it. I'm sorry to tell you. The grays are all in your phone. They're holographic. There's grays on people. There's people that aren't even real. They're holographic grays. They're walking around with some sort of technology, utilizing it so you perceive them as people, but they're basically a form of AI or gray. Okay. The grays also are physical. Like they're another biological type of entity. And they, some of them that are physical, they do, they get plastic surgery and so on. You could tell the grays. They have very thin lips, very pasty skin. They tend not to have too much hair because they can't grow hair. They're very nuclear looking, very nuclear. I would say the twins, the Olsen twins, those are grays. The Olsen twins. That chick was Greta. That's a gray. They're very little too, so they look like little. They can perpetuate themselves as young women, like little people, little young, very tiny women. They don't gain weight. They don't get fat. There's no fat grays. Someone asked me the other day, do weight. I'm sorry. There's no fat grays. So if someone's a gray, generally they're very thin and small. Okay. So yes, they have a certain look, very thin lips, very pasty look, very wide eyes, kind of like, they look like nuclear waste. babies, like nuclear babies. Those are grays, okay? Long, elonged arms, odd big head. I think Wilcock is a gray. I know he hates when I say things like this, but I think David Wilcock is a gray. I think he's some sort of gray. His head is really big, like Kazoo off of the Jetsons. You ever see the Jetsons? The Jetsons, when Kazoo had the big helmet over his head, and then, oh, no, was it Kazoo? Yeah, it was Kazoo. Kazoo had the big helmet over his head like a Martian. Yeah, I think he's a gray. I don't want, notice I said think. I don't want to make that call because he looks like a gray. You know what I mean? Anyway, so the grays have their agenda right now, and the loopers are perpetuating the agenda-based time frame that they want to keep everyone distracted so that they get caught up in the loop. Now, we were talking about that today, and last night we were talking about the multiple loops that many people are caught up in, and in order to escape, because that's our main goal. Big up to all the zombies. The zombies and us have been working on our hatch out escape plan to break out of this holographic, the multiple, not only the multiple loops, but the domes and also the firmament. The firmament is melting and it's breaking down. It does it at before reset. And also the Anunnaki are present. So there's a combination planner. And also we're going to go into how they're utilizing solar technology, the solar panels on people's houses as a laser weaponry. That's why they're giving it free, because they're trying to attack Nibiru or Planet X or Jupiter. They're trying to attack it. So they made sure they weaponized everybody's house with solar. And the solar panels, they burn holes in the atmosphere. So they're utilizing it as a weapon. Anyway, I'm going on a tangent. Let me go back to what I was talking about. So there's multiple loops that we're caught into, and we got to be careful because you can get caught into a loop with your habits. So we were talking about ways to break out of the multiple loops. We're interlooping, and in order, we have to break free from each loop in order to do our extraction. Many of you know the extraction is occurring this month. And part of the extraction is you breaking out of specific, out of the multitude of loops that you're caught into, because we aren't able to be physically extracted from this realm if we're caught in loops, because the loops is like a spiral. It keeps you going. That's why that bastard, that's an android, made the metaverse. What's the sign of the metaverse? It's an 8, which is 2 loops. Interlocking loops. Those are loops that you get caught into. It's the infinity, but it's infinity. You get caught into it. You can't get out of those loops. So once you enter into the metaverse, that's another imprisonment within the matrix. So how do you get out of loops? Let's talk about that, because we don't talk about the problem. We be about the solution. Okay. We can always discuss forms of the issue, but we also have to discuss ways that we can resolve them. Because if we keep talking about the issues, we'll be caught up in the loop, and we're always going to be victimized. We'll victimize ourselves by perpetually thinking that. Okay, first, our habits are loops. So things that you do perpetually that you can't get out of are loops. Be careful of loopers too, because some of your relationships are loopers. I remember there was a gentleman that I really liked, and he always did the same thing. It didn't matter what it was. Like, you could come back around to him till like a year later, 2 years later. He always looped. Like, everything he did was always the same. He always made the same mistakes, always had the same results. Always, remember they said that the definition of insanity was doing something over and over. That's the loop. So, and also it's hard because if you notice, the loop will perpetuate itself. So every time you get rid of someone, you ever notice that another energy of the same type of person will come in your life? So let's say you get rid of Tom. Tom was a vegan. He was aggressive. He was always very judgmental, but you decided that Tom was a piece of work, and you relieved him from your stratosphere. Next thing you know, you meet Peter or Paul. And Peter and Paul are, yes, they are into maybe not so much yoga, but into Tai Chi. Very similar to Tom, but now they're an upgraded version of Tom. But they still do the same thing. They're still very judgmental, but on a higher level. they tend to do the same things. They tend to evoke the same kind of emotions in you and perpetuate the same kind of frequency that Tom did. Because when you take one of the loopers out, the matrix will replace it with another. That's why when you notice that people similarly will come into your life all the time. If you rid of one, another one will come to replace it. It happens with us in Zumbi all the time. One person it comes out as Zumbi, and another person of the same type of energy and behavior and propensities comes in to replace them. It's part of the loop. It always will bring back in another cylindrical person or energy to perpetuate that frequency. So what is necessary in order to escape loops within the loops? You have to change your behavioral patterns at least every 3 to 4 days or every week. Why? Is because when we do something perpetually, we are perpetuating the loop. So if you constantly, like, I've had to stop wearing, if you notice, I stopped wearing my banana clip. That's breaking a loop, because that's actually an 80s or 90s loop, because that was part of the rituals of what people put in their hair during that time. I had to break a habit. So breaking a habit is breaking out of the one of the major, like some of the loops that are interwound. So if you're doing anything perpetually and very ritualistically, you have to break out of that, because that's a loop. It keeps you in the major loop, because you're looping it within the loop. So it's kind of, you ever had the bracelets? We were talking about that. You remember the bracelets back in the days? They were really cute though. Remember the bracelets back in the days, but they were interlooped. The loops were all into each other. So it's like you had loops and loops, and it was like you couldn't get them out, but sometimes you wanted to get the bracelets out, so you would try to get the loops out of the loops, and you couldn't, because they were all interlocked. And when you had them interlocked, it was more difficult to get out of the loop, because you're caught in multiple loops. Okay, so part of releasing yourself from that for the extraction is breaking habits that are tying you to looping behavior, loops. Always getting up at the specific time, doing exactly the same thing. Those ritualistic. Why do you think they're doing TikToks doing the same dance all over the darn place? Why do you think TikTok is perpetuating doing that that same dance? Everybody and their mother is doing the same dance. Why are they doing the same song and the same dance? That's a loop. They're getting people perpetuated in loops. So they're getting them caught in loops. People singing the same song, people looking at the same TikTok, people doing the same, what do they call them? Challenges. That's all looping people. That's getting you caught in a loop. So if you are in doing those TikTok dances where you're doing the same dance to the same song, that means you're interwoven in those loops. You have to remain sovereign or independent from engaging in perpetuated or propaganda loops. Okay, that's the way they tie you into the matrix, tie you into the new metaverse. They got to pull you in and reel you in, but how they do it is they perpetuate loops. So it's hard for you to get out of. Then you're already caught in your own loops, but then you get interwoven in other loops. So it makes it harder for you to extract yourself. Okay, so any habits that you have, I would suggest you break them. You break them. Not to say that they're bad. May not be bad habits, but change them. So if you're always used to getting up and having your coffee a certain way, or your breakfast a certain way, why not change it? And instead of doing the same thing, switch it around. Instead of maybe having your coffee first, maybe have your fruits and maybe a little oatmeal first, and then later maybe doing coffee in the afternoon, or not doing coffee at all and doing a tea, or instead of doing coffee, do like another form of something, but do it less ritualistic. Instead of you lying on the right side of the bed, why don't you switch off with your husband or your mate and switch off, and he sleeps on the left side and you sleep on the right side? Instead of doing the same thing and always wearing the same kind of shoes and sneakers, get really funky with it. Go and get something you never would wear. Break those loops, those habits. That's the perpetual loops. We're caught in our own loops. Okay, so when you break some of those habits, those ritualistic habits, you break out of those loops. It makes you more extractable. Okay. And also Willy Wonka and his League of Doom. It's harder for them to mess with you if you're always unpredictable. If you're predictable and you're always in a ritualistic type of behavior or pattern of behaviors, it's very easy to catch you and put Agent Smiths and all kinds of handlers in your life because they know what you're going to do. They can predict it. Predictive programming is wonderful. Remember, they're very archonic. They make you, they socially engineer you to be loopy and predictable by perpetuating things on television, radio, making you listen to the same songs over and over again, perpetuating your habits by giving you holidays where you do it every year. Break those habits. If you're an Easter person, listen, I know you have little people. I have little people. My little people are getting to be big people. I love them. I love them with all my heart, all my soul. If you celebrate Easter, no judgment, you celebrate Easter, be careful celebrating holidays or acknowledging holidays because that's part of the loop. That's how they get you caught up in their holidays. If you like Easter, you like St. Patrick's Day, instead of celebrating it on those days, why don't you do St. Patrick's Day when you want to do it? You're not bound to their days. Remember, some of these holidays are not on the same day. They create a day for them. So why can't you? You notice holidays, they like, oh, Thanksgiving can be on a different day depending on the work week or whatever. How is that possible? Because it's not a real holiday. If you like wearing green, you see today, I'm wearing the luck of the Irish. Okay. I'm wearing green. Today could be my St. Patrick's Day. Why do I have to call it St. Patrick's Day? Why can't I call it Patricia's Day? I'm going to call today Patricia's Day. I've designated my own holiday, and today is Patricia's Day, and I decided to wear green and do everything green. And if you like, what's the things that you eat during corned beef and potatoes and cabbage? Okay, so go get your corned beef and cabbage today, and today is Patricia's Day. You made it that. Why does it have to be Saint? Why can't she be like Empress Patricia's Day? Why can't she be Goddess Patricia's Day? Why can't you make it a day where it's green and pink, like I'm wearing green and pink? Why does it have to be green? So make your own holiday. Break those loops. They want you to follow their patterns of behavior because it gets you caught up in the loop. As you break through the multiple loops, it allows you to be out more extractable. Listen, Nibiru's here, y'all. They're setting up shop to try to shoot down the planetoid, which we call Planet X, the brown dwarf, Nibiru, the black star. What else they call her? Jupiter, the Jupiterians. Okay, and as a Jupiterian, we were discussing this before. We're wandering Jews. We are the Jews. Thank you, M, for this. Jews in Japanese means free. Do you understand? That's why they told the Jews that they weren't to stay on any sort of Israel isn't the homeland of anyone, especially not the Jews, who are sovereign and are supposed to roam until Nibiru returns. Nibiru is returning. We're not supposed to stay on any landmass. We aren't supposed to claim any landmass because this isn't our planetoid. This isn't where we're from. So the 12 tribes of Judah are roaming around the earth waiting for the Mother Hubbard ship to pick us up. It's like the field trip is over. We're about to be picked up. Now, if you start setting up shop and getting caught up in loops, it's going to be making you really difficult to extract. How are they going to extract you when you got all kinds of, you're tied to so many things, you're caught up in loops, you really think that this world is real? It's going to be real difficult for them to extract a person that is caught up in multiple loops. They're going to leave you behind because they have to get those out that are here for that extraction. Those who aren't bound to concepts that are artificially instituted in this matrix. This is a hologram, y'all. We're not even on an earth. This is the dark side of the moon. We're in a hollowed out crater. That's why when you fly, they don't let you fly across anywhere. They have us flying all over. That's why when you get on an airplane, you can go directly somewhere. They'll have you fly all the way around it to get over there. They're giving you false time or distancing because they have to fool you into thinking that we're living somewhere that we're not. We aren't living on a planet. It's a planet, but it's a part of the planet, and it's the moon. Yeah, there's moon landing. We're on the darn moon. I'm sorry. You don't have to believe me. This is just what I know. It's really disgusting. The sociopaths here, they're disgusting. And why they're so depraved, y'all, why they like to have sex with animals, children, trees, dirt, flowers, they have sex with everything, corpses, is because they're caught up in a loop. They get bored. They've been in a loop so long, they start to they get depraved. They become sociopathic, become psychopaths. They're psychopaths. They're loopitarians. We should call them the Lupitarians. The Lupitarians are so sick because they can't get out of here. So they have to keep creating these sick, new, depraved type of things to kind of throw off their prison system. They're caught in a prison system. So they're looping. So they keep doing different things. They don't really have a consequence other than they know that they aren't able to leave here. So they got to make this joint the bomb for them. So they do all this really sick, depraved things. That's what you got to be careful. You know what I mean? And all of this, all of this creating coups and separation, that's another part of their agenda. If we all hate each other and we all don't trust each other, it's harder for us to get out. Because remember, we're lifting each other up to get out of the loop. We're lifting each other up. When I reach my hand down to hold you so that you can get leverage and get up, they don't want that. They want me to hate you as a brown person. They want you as a lunar person to mistrust me as a brown person. They want you Asian person to think that we're so low and deprived. Why do they want us together? Because if you see what we do in Zoom with the multiple languages that we all come from, the multiple cultures, the multiple sexes, the multiple nationalities, each one of us has a key. And if we're so separated, we can't share the key with each other. We can't put parts of the puzzle together because we're so busy judging one another, hating on one another, creating coups to destroy one another, that there's no possibility for us to get out because we're so busy hating ourselves or perpetuating the agendas of the dark Kabbalists, which are just basically grays and holographic beings that are stuck here. Or utilizing this hologram as a fuel source. How are you going to get out if you're mad at Fleur Brune for just saying that she likes to enjoy sex with a super soldier? I mean, the things that people get mad at is so insane. We have to help each other out. You got to get over some of your judgments. And some of your judgments are artificially inseminated in your subconscious and in your DNA and your genealogy to make you unwelcoming to other people, other nationalities, other cultures, other tongues, other complexions. That whole complexionism is mental illness. Let me explain. Being mad or not liking someone of a different color, there's no cat, meow, going around saying a brown and spotted cat saying, oh, I can't have sex with you because you have too many spots on you. What kind? Do you see cats doing that? Do you see dogs saying, woof, I can't mess with you because you got gray on your tail and white on your feet? I mean, you got to think, y'all, rationally, that's crazy. They're not doing the animals don't do that because they're smarter than humans. Humans are so socially engineerable. It's insane. You can go to places in the United States in the country and there are sick people who want to hang someone for being brown. They just are so mentally ill that when they see a brown person, they just want to kill them. That's mental illness. That is socially engineered mental illness that is meant to create coups and hatred towards their own people. We are one earthling on one holographic freaking moon. If I can sleep with you and give birth to your child, regardless of complexion, we are of the same species. Now, if I can't have your child, if you can't seed me with my womb with your insemination, then we're not the same species. I can have everyone's child, meaning that we are the same species. What's wrong with you people? It's not y'all. It's mental illness. Get over it already. I mean, we can't stick to that. I mean, it's if you're still mad at people for speaking another language and looking different than you, then this conversation is way above your IQ level. It's way above your pay grade of consciousness pay grade. It really is. We have to get past that. That's a whole nother loop, that if you're stuck in that, then if you're stuck in thinking Muslims are lower, Asian people are lower, lunars are better, lunars are worse, then you have problems. A person's personality is very unique to them. Every complexion has good and bad and in between. Every person, every nationality has good and bad and in between. There is nothing across the board that makes someone perpetually negative or perpetually positive. We have everything in us. So how someone lives, how they're raised, affects how they behave. But when you start generalizing and making it across the board based on your own Stockholm syndrome, then you're going to cause problems and you're caught in the loop. And I can't help anyone like that, because we got a host of other issues, and that's one that we shouldn't be suffering from right now. Now, yes, do they use certain nationalities and complexions to work on others? Yeah, because it's all social engineered propaganda that gets into certain people's consciousness, and they perpetuate it. Okay, get over it. Okay? I wasn't raised in the hood, and I'm a brown person. You may have thought that. My first language was French. Did you know that? Okay? My family, my mother, my grandmother, or anything, they don't know anything about slavery. I asked them, I had a grandma 103. She didn't know anything about slavery. We don't know anything about slavery. Not everybody comes from that. So you got to be careful when you're judging people based on complexion and look, that you're automatically lumping them into a place because you're caught in a loop. Okay? Not every lunar hates you. Not every lunar has had slaves. People in certain parts of Europe have never had a brown slave. We as brown people have to stop lumping Europeans into the same basket, because there are only a small nominal amount of non-humanoid lunars that had slaves. And also, you got to think, whoever supposedly had slaves wasn't in every neck of the woods. And let's go into what's going on in Ukraine, which I just found out that I thought it had to do with Poland not letting people in, or Romania. Well, Romania was letting brown people in. The African students that were in Ukraine that were being held into the country and not being let out, that was Ukraine's silly, crazy mental illness. The clown that they call their president, telling them that no men can leave, and also utilizing the Africans as a shield and as hostages, so that they can hoping that the so-called Russians would hit something that had the Africans, so they can say, oh, look, the Russians hit the Africans. They're using them as something to throw under the bus, as a leverage. So they're hoping that, or when they do something, because you heard that the military in Ukraine has coups that they set up to hit their own people, and then blame Russia for doing it. You know that, right? That's a fact. You don't even talk to some people over there. They'll tell you, the Ukrainians will tell you, they're being hit by their own so-called government. And then the Africans are being held. They're not for racists. They were told, the borders were told not to take them in, so they can use them as shields, as hostages. Because Russia went into Africa and made friends with a lot of African nations. Did you know that? Actually, Russia made more friends in Africa, so they have a lot of wonderful cohesive liaison with African nations. That's why they want to make sure that the Ukrainians wanted to make sure that they dirtied up those ties with the Africans by leaving them in Ukraine and hopefully making them a target so that they could say the Russians did it. It's so nasty. Be careful what the propaganda is. I thought it was the same. I was like, see, they hate brown people. No. That's a setup. It's a setup. And I almost fell into it. But you know what? I used my higher discernment and I listened to things outside of the public media, social media. And I spoke to people who are from those arenas. And then we found out the truth. We got to be careful. Listening to Willy Wonka and his League of Doom and their agendas, they will have you hating your mother if you listen to them. They will have you mistreating people based on their socially engineered propaganda. These are loopers. They can't leave. They have to make you tied here. They're jealous that you can leave. They can't. They're stuck in a loop. So anyway, get me started. Anyway, so you have to get out of certain loops in your life. You have to start by breaking habits and changing them daily. I would even say daily. So what you do, if you drive down the street in a certain way, drive differently. If you always use the one road highway, take the streets. If you always take the streets, take the highway. If you use one main road, go around and take a new road, a scenic road. If you always give your daughter a bath at 7, give her a bath at 5. If you always put certain kind of bubbles, don't put bubbles that day. Break your habits. Okay, that's how we break out of the loops. You have to get out. That's the first part of the extraction. So big up to everybody who's here for the extraction from this month. The rainbow event. The rainbow event occurs within a couple days. I realized it's supposed to happen within a couple days. I had to look and see when the rainbow event was going to happen, because I had to look at my old video and a video that came on my Facebook, and I found out it happens within a couple of days. This is a cylindrical looping occurrence, so it always happens. You feel it, and you may have not seen it, but everybody felt it. You just don't know. It's part of the loop. And also the anniversary of Fukushima was yesterday, so it's kind of an alignment that rainbow event would happen around the same time of year, because remember, the rainbow is perpetuated by radiation. Okay, so this month is the beginning of extraction, and extraction is in tears. But you have to separate yourself from the loopers. And if you're married to a looper, be careful, because their goal and their agenda is based on whatever they're keeping you in that perpetual loop. They may not even. Do I think that all loopers know? I don't think they do. I think they just think that and how you know that they're looper, because they are unaware of everything. They're unaware that they even think that this is insane conversation, even though things are perpetuated all the time. They're just unaware. So I think a looper by nature, only the higher loopers that are perpetuating this know it. The ones who are regular people may be caught up into the loop later. They may not know. It's like Groundhog Day. He didn't really know until later. Okay? So just be careful if your spouse, your girlfriend, your husband are loopers. Don't leave them. I don't know that you should leave them. I don't know if you should. I don't want to make that call. You decide that. That's not my business. I could tell you certain things I know, but that's a personal. Hear me? Can you hear me or no? Put a 13 if you can hear me. No? Yes? No? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Yes? No? Oh, perfect. Okay, I don't know what happened. The loopers came for me. The loopers came for me. The loopers. Okay, so we talked about the loopers, the holographic people that are just props. Be careful about propped people. They distract you. It's always nice to have a nice distraction every once in a while, but distractive people, how do you know they're holographic? Holographic people, again, they act like loopers. So I think sometimes they're one and the same. But I will say this, holographic people aren't real. They perpetuate the same thing. Oh, well, it's loopers. I think they're the same. They're loopers. They just perpetuate the agenda. They're unaware of anything. They kind of just follow the regimen of whatever is being propagandized or whatever agendas are out there. Even if it's love and light. Remember, people always think that if someone's part of love and light or part of the Intellis, that they aren't loopers. That's not true. They are programs within programs. You know, they program loopers in every facet of our matrix. What do you think? They're just in the mainstream matrix with just normal things that we consider to be like mainstream news? No, they place a member. A lot of our communities were created by created by Willy Wonka. So it would make sense that you have loopers that are inside are actually advocates within these different sectors, right? So they're in the sector. So love and light sector, the spiritualist sector, the yoga sector, the Intellis sector, the whistleblowing sector, the brown, the brown conscious sector. All these communities were created by Willy Wonka. We didn't create them. We fell into them. It was kind of like a web. We fell into them thinking that because a lot of us are in awareness. So jumping into these communities thinking that, oh, wow, there's others like me. I'm not saying there isn't. I'm saying the communities in themselves, most likely, let me say, I don't want to say all, most likely, I would say maybe 70 to 80% of most of these communities were created by Willy Wonka because they know they're loopers. They know how this ends. So they can perpetuate the things that they know how humanity comes to a certain awareness. So how do they do it? They kind of psyop it. You know what I mean? They know that we'll come to a certain pinnacle a form of evolution. So they'll psyop it. So they basically will create the illusion that we are, that they're in alignment with us. That's why you see all these platforms with Intellis, like with 1 million subscribers. You got to think, okay, I'm not saying I'm the bomb.com, but they stopped my feed for less. So you're going to tell me they stopped my feed for saying very little. And, because I don't know everything. And you're going to have a whistleblower who has 1 million something subscribers. Do you remember John X Army? Some of you like him, some of you don't. But John X Army, we did one video. He had 260,000 subscribers. Many of you know him. We did one video on what's the guy's name? The guy, the false flag. What is it again? What's it called again? I don't even know because I don't believe in it. Remember what was the guy who supposedly was killed? Remember that? George Floyd. Okay, remember we did the one video on George Floyd? Now, you notice they came after him harder. You know why? Because he had more subscribers than me. They came for him and they deleted his entire thing. They didn't even give him warning. And then when he started to create again, he got phone calls threatening his life. See, people don't realize if you're truly an Intellis, you aren't going to be able to say much online. They've got our goats. Okay. So they came for him. Because remember, we were on Time, what was it? Time magazine? I forgot. We were on something and they said, oh, this extremist. They deleted his channel, would not let him back on YouTube and threatened him. So why is it that he can be deleted that quickly, but then a host of all these so-called Intellis can sit there and talk all day, like Deborah Tavares. You've got Camelot was legit, even though I don't like her. Cassidy, that was legit. She got deleted off. Her whole channels got deleted off. Project Camelot. Remember, and I don't like her. she's not my cup of tea, but she has legitimate stuff. She got deleted. You got David Wilcock making videos all over the place. You got Corey Good making videos all over the place. How come Gaia can make a host of all this spiritual stuff? So you think they're legitimate? Believe me, there's some legitimate people on those platforms. Yes. But for the fact that they have too many people watching them, if they weren't part of the agenda, they would have been deleted or incepted already. That is a fact. Like I said, I couldn't say the word clone 10 years. Remember I was on 2015? I made the video on clones. They shut me down just for saying it, talking about it. They don't care now. You can say clone 50 million times because it's over. You know, whatever they were trying to hide, it doesn't matter. It's past that. But I'm just saying they will shut you down. So be careful with these huge platforms. I'm not demonizing them for having huge platforms. I think good for you. Especially they're probably being monetized. That's fine. There's nothing wrong. People's gig is people's gigs. I don't have a problem with that. The problem I have is that, look at that young man, young Pharaoh. What's going on with him? That is crazy, y'all. Do you see what has happened to that young man? Do you see what has happened? The threatening, shooting the girl's house, his child's mother, being caught up in jail, saying all these things right after he got the eye of Horus on his eye. I mean, look at that train wreck that happened over there. And it's you got to say, why was he allotted to have so many people and go into the political arena so easily and get a check for $1.4 million? Who initiated that person to come into that community? Because now once that person was initiated into that community, the way he was, that was a setup at the beginning. Whether he knew it or not, he was an agent provocateur by the fact that him being initiated and allowed to grow as big as he was, and then to this point, show up like a whole diabolical being, that lets you know that was a setup from the Getty up. That was, because remember, I was caught up in that too. Sweet young man. He was a scholar. He liked to research things. And then you talk to the women of the children. He was beating girls. I couldn't believe it because I was like, this is a young man. I'm always a fan. Listen, especially with our young brown men, as much as I talk about men in general, I am a supporter of young males, especially young brown males that are trying their best to overcome the challenges of being not loved, to being rejected, being marginalized, and being genocided. I support their up-leveling. I do. So that's why you never saw me really attacking that young man, even if I saw he was being challenged, because I know I've seen that. So I didn't want to be a participant in that. But when they show up, all kinds of agent provocateurs showing up online, all kinds of Swayze talking about women, BIC, I don't want to say it because children are on here, calling women out their names, beating up women on the back lay, perpetuating themselves like they are godly. But he's just another nature boy. Nature boy was another agent. Look at the people that they put in our communities, y'all. Look at the inserts. They will post them in there and they will be followed by hundreds of thousands of people. But then they'll get to a point, remember, they got to get them up, and then they blow them down. They basically pummel them down. It's to mess with you. So you don't trust anyone again. It's actually meant to make us not trust each other. That's why they set them in there. They build them up to break them down so that you don't trust people anymore. So then you'll get a nice, actually authentic young scholar, a young man coming in, speaking truth. And you won't trust him because of something like what happened to young Pharaoh. You'll be like, oh, this is just another young Pharaoh. Oh, this is just another nature boy. This is another brother Palais. You'll see them as one of them. So now you're going to vilify. You're being socially engineered to vilify because they built someone up so high that disappointed you. So now you're going to vilify others that may have a very legitimate, integrity-ridden, thing that they do, and you're going to feel it's very sad. It's very sad. I'm very disappointed and very disgusted to say that I could have possibly been party to perpetuating this person. Obviously, this person is mentally ill. And they need help And I don't know how they can get help. And they've been utilized by Willy Wonka to come into our community to cause this kind of upheaval and to also cause deception. It's very, very sad. You know, me as a mother, I come from a teacher. I come from a mother who taught special ed. Big up to all the teachers in here and all the professors. I was raised by an educator. A lot of us, the children of educators, were very passionate. And it's weird because I never wanted to be a teacher. Never. My mother was a teacher. Even though I saw she was wonderful, even her students to this day love her to pieces, I didn't want to be an educator. But educators' children, we know certain things because we see, especially those of us who have parents who were educators with special ed or children with special needs. It's very sad. And I think they're using children who are traumatized in the foster care system, who were rejected and abandoned by their families. They're using them in the brown conscious community as a way to incept and to destroy the upgrading or the up-leveling or the ascension process. They're really doing it. It's very sad. I think, when I saw it, I was in shock, but more so in shock that it was able to go on this long. Very sad. And listen to all the young ladies out here. Let me explain something beautiful. Let me tell you something. And I know I'm going off on a tangent. You young ladies out here, be very careful of these predatory type of so-called spiritual men out here. A lot of them are predators. A lot of them are mentally ill. Not all. A lot of them are mentally ill, and a lot of them are womanizers. They utilize their platforms to lure women and to have sex with multiple women. This whole thing on being a polygamous, that is a ploy to have men who have unchecked sexual perversions and are who haven't the ability to utilize their discernment or have self-control or self-mastery. We can all be attracted to many different people, but when you aren't able to control yourself physically, and also be able to master your forms of attraction, it means that you have a deficit in maturity and in spiritual growth. Because it doesn't matter. You can be attracted. There's so many beautiful people online. I mean, there's so many good-looking men, good-looking women. It's a beautiful thing. But if you aren't able to master yourself and have some self-control and self-restraint, it's a sign that you're spiritually deficient. Okay? I speak to the most handsome, beautiful, smart, intellectual men online. I'm not fishing for a husband or a man online. Okay? Any man that I mated with has been in my own personal life that I like. You know what I mean? When you're fishing for these entities online, so be careful, young sea stars. These men online are pariahs, and they're predators, and a lot of them use their platforms to get as many women. I don't even think it's to get as many women. I think women just come to them and they aren't able to say no. You know what I mean? Or take advantage of that position. So be careful. I see my beautiful young sea stars. I love you so much. And I want you to do so well. I see you as beautiful, healthy, just be mindful. It's better to be in your own company, healthy and happy, than to be in the company of a demon, because a lot of these men have incubus, succubus all over their auric field, and they will eat your energy up. They'll just gobble up your energy and eat your time. Okay? I'm just saying, I love you, and I wish you well. I do. Even if you don't like me, I wish you well. I want you healthy and happy, and especially if you have children, disallow these men to come into your life, because they'll eat your time and they'll attach things to you, and you go and bring those home to your cubs. Watch your cubs, okay? Just be careful with that. And I think he's a looper. He repeats himself over and over again. Well, that's a form of mental illness. He perseverates. Anybody who's here who knows about who as a psychologist or a psychiatric facilitator, or anyone who works in mental health, you know that people who perseverate, that's a form of mental illness. Usually people who have unchecked bipolar disorder or schizophrenia, they tend to repeat themselves. They'll say, okay, okay, okay. They'll always repeat themselves. It's usually in series of 2s and 3s. So if someone's perpetually going like, okay, I want to do this. Okay, I want to do this. Okay, we're going to do this. That's a form of that's a form of psychiatric that's a psychiatric issue. Okay, so perseveration is a mental illness. It's part of it's a condition. It's a condition of mental illness. Okay, so be careful with people who repeat themselves over and over. If they keep perpetually saying things over and over in 3s and 2s, it's because they have a psychiatric disorder, probably unchecked. And, you know, if you look online, the majority of people online are mentally ill. That's a fact. Listen, I question my sanity 90% of the time because of the world we live in. So it's hard to be psychiatric mentally well right now. We all, to a certain degree, are mentally ill, but there's a lot of mental illness online. There's a lot of people that have unchecked anger issues and shadows that they're unwilling to, you know, deal with or work on, especially males, because males aren't allowed to really express themselves, or they disallow themselves, and they aren't getting the help that they need. And because they lived in home court advantage, what incentive did they have? If he's mentally ill, if he's not healthy, does it mean he's not going to get a woman? No. Yeah, how many men do you know that are, listen, I'm a thickums, okay? So I'm not like the prize for everybody, but I'm just saying you have men that are physically unhealthy, mentally unhealthy, financially unhealthy, and they are getting the top-notch physical women. How is that possible? Because something's wrong. Something's wrong. Those type of men wouldn't have a date. They wouldn't have a wife. They wouldn't even have potential to be with anyone. Women will mate with just any male right now, even if he has attached to 20 other females or has 20 other babies. Something's wrong with us. It's a lot of stuff. Men aren't going to get better if they can get what they want with very minimal. You know, if they're minimal in what they can offer, and they still get top-notch women, what is it? Why would they have incentive to change? You only change when you aren't able to accrue, or you're atrophied because you don't have what it's necessary to gain something or get something. If there's no incentive, why are they going to change? Women, you got to stop mating with mediocre men, and men, you have to stop mating with women that have unchecked psychiatric issues. You know what I mean? It's not just men, it's women too. If she's unhealthy and she hasn't dealt with trauma from her father leaving, or her mother being unloving, or maybe being abused in another relationship, you need to be by yourself, because you can't help her. She has to help herself. And if she's unwilling, if she's with somebody who's with her and doesn't leave her and allows her to just have unchecked psychiatric issues, then you're part of the problem too. We all have problems. And let me say this, I'm not throwing stones. I live in a glass house, and I know what this is, okay? In my world, you know, I see all kinds of things as well. You know, we got to do it. If we're sad, if we have issues, we got to fast. If we are psychologically off, we got to start to, you know, sit down and quiet our minds. If we are lonely, we have to be our best mate. Nobody's going to take away your loneliness. That loneliness is an illusion. There's too many people around this planet, unfortunately, and there's too many spiritual entities around you for you to truly be lonely. Loneliness is an artificial construct. If you feel that, is because you want to feel that. Or you're suffering from a form of self-loathing. Nobody's lonely here. It's what you think of, is what you create in your own mind. Anyway, all right, y'all. I talked to you too much judgment. Let's get out of this loop. Welcome to Extraction 2022. The Anunnaki are here. We need to get out of these loops. You and me. Listen, I am not talking from outside. I'm talking from the bleachers. We together have to raise our hands if you can, and help another up as you get to each level. You don't have to. If you don't have your footing, don't help anybody, but help yourself. But you're gonna have to get out of the loops. Start changing your pattern of behavior, switch it up a little bit. If you normally do your vacation in the south, go north. If you normally hold hands on the right, hold hands on the left. If you normally kiss from the change it up. Just change it up. If you wear your hair a certain way, change it. If you eat a certain food, switch it up. Let's get it together. Let's get out of these loops, y'all. It's time. We've been caught up in these loops. We got to get out of the multiple loops in order to be extracted. Extraction is now. Absolutely now. And listen to Zero that Willy Wonka says. He is a liar. They aren't even real. There isn't anything that they say that's legitimate. Look at what they're lying and so on. And also, if the gas prices are high, we shouldn't be using gas anyway. We shouldn't be ruining our planets and destroying, well, even the holographic planet. We shouldn't be using carbon emission. The fact that the Anunnaki are here is probably why we aren't going to use carbon. We aren't going to have a blueprint print anymore. The fact that they're here is probably why they're stopping using gasoline. So find other ways, be creative like our ancestors did. We didn't need all that garbage anyway, okay? So if the gas high, start doing stuff. Maybe I'll start walking more, you know what I mean? Maybe we'll start doing things better. Maybe we'll start finding creative ways to travel or doing things home or finding things to do in our neighborhood. They can't change. They can't stop you from what you want to do. That's not healthy anyway. So if the gas gets high, just chill out. Do other things or create other ways to travel or create an engine that doesn't require gasoline. That's an unhealthy thing for our environment, okay? All these things that are stopping aren't negative, y'all. It's your concept. We've been lulled into thinking that negative things are good for us and we perpetuate it. It's not healthy, okay? So if everything's getting higher, if your cigarettes are getting higher, stop smoking. If your liquor's getting higher, stop drinking. If McDonald's is getting out of control, stop eating McDonald's. I mean, I don't see these things as negative. Why? They stopped what is Starbucks, McDonald's, Pepsi, who else? They stopped doing business with Russia. Congratulations, Russia. You won't be poisoned anymore like we over here. I'm saying congratulations. Why would they care? It just makes them healthier. God darn it, their soldiers won't even have those amenities of eating garbage to make them unable to protect themselves. Yeah, that's good. What do you think, Willy Wonka? What did you do? Just stop the poison that's going in their country? Good for them. You won't do it to us, but you'll take it away from them. Take away all those garbage things anyway from here. Yeah, I love it. You know what I'm saying? I have a nasty habit with Starbucks. Make it so I can't even get Starbucks. Sometimes we can't help ourselves. Sometimes things outside of us have to help us. So if this Starbucks comes to like $10, $20, I won't be drinking it anymore. So what? It's all unhealthy anyway. Anyway, y'all, I hope I didn't talk to you too much. I'm sorry. I go on tangents. I love you. Wish you well. Be mindful. Get out of the loops. All of us. We're going to break these loops, get out. Extraction is now. The rainbow event is on its way. And I'm excited to see how it's going to develop or show up. All right. So let me go. I will see you later. And I'm out. Peace.